And welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Jamie University. Jamie, how are you doing? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year coming up. Big game tomorrow. So how are things over at the Uyeyama Manor?
Good. They're good. Back home. We were away out in the Pacific Northwest visiting family for Christmas and the holidays. The weather was terrible, which was unfortunate. But aside from that, good to see family and had a good holidays and looking forward to this game tomorrow. Hopefully you had a great Christmas as well with the kids.
Absolutely. It was a good Christmas. We had a little illness for our youngest that threw a wrench into things. She got sick. And on the day, which kind of came up out of nowhere, but we got through it and everything like that. So it was a good Christmas, and looking forward to New Year's and that sort of thing, and the game tomorrow, of course. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Everyone, there's some comments in the chat that are already up, so we'll throw those up in a second. Want to thank you, and if you're watching and this is your first time, hit the like, hit subscribe button. If you're watching on replay, thank you for catching us on the replay. And do the same. If you've never seen our show before, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and that helps everybody. All right, let's throw up some comments. Craig D says he's got a good feeling about tomorrow. Let's go Irish. Craig D has a good feeling, and that's good. Rajon is here. He missed the show on Tuesday, but that's okay. We're not mad about it. He says make a New Year's resolution, hit the like button. Steve, S. Gomez says, he wants everyone to have fun tomorrow, everyone to have a good time. And so let's go. Let's hopefully everyone does that. Rajon says he missed you. It's good to see you. Missed you on Tuesday. I think we all did, Jamie. I think we all missed.
I missed
your
everyone
contributions.
too.
It was tough, man, with the traveling and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It really makes it difficult. Chief Brody says, "What up? What up to you, Chief Brody? Thanks for joining the show." Steve Hippler has a question to start off. Love this show. Thank you very much for that comment. Thoughts on whether we see a different game plan with Buchner at quarterback? So I guess we could kind of jump into the preview. That's what we're doing on the show here today. We're going to preview the game tomorrow. And so I guess, Jamie, we'll just throw that out there. Do you think there's going to be a difference in the game plan with Buchner at quarterback? I kind of don't, but I'm wondering to get your thoughts on that.
I think it'll be different, but not like drastically different.
Yeah.
Like I don't think all of a sudden you're gonna be like, "Whoa, where was this off? This is the offense we would have saw with Buchner the whole time." I don't think it's gonna be necessarily like that, but I think part of it is Buchner. I mean, he can run better than they're going to use him in the run game. That's definitely going to be something that happens. So you'll see more zone read than you would have saw. I think you'll probably see maybe a bit more of the 21-31 personnel kind of thing than maybe we saw just because I think part of that is the zone read element and that part of it, the RPO element with that. And then the other part is that you are down Michael Mayer. So you're probably, they're still going to do multiple tight ends. That's who Notre Dame is. But I think you probably won't see as much of it. Where I think if you said during the back half of the season, especially when like Mitchell Evans came back, I would say they were probably like about a 50%, 12 personnel, like 12 or 13, multiple tight ends personnel team. And my guess it'll probably be more closer to around a third, probably like one out of every three. You'll probably see that more. Maybe later in the game, if they're trying to just like run it down their throats or something like that, then that becomes what they do. I also think because they're more of kind of similar to Notre Dame. They're more of a traditional nickel team. So that's where you could see Notre Dame kind of play heavier and force them to play heavier too.
Chief Brody had a comment that I thought was pretty good. I think he can look better in a Drew Pyne type of offense than he did in his own offense against Marshall and OSU. I will say that there were a bunch of times this year where I thought, man, Tyler Buchner would look really good running what they're trying to do, like especially against teams like Clemson. Like in the Clemson game, I thought like Tyler Buchner really could have excelled in that type of offense where it's like just the added element of his legs and what he can do and throwing off of all those things too. I thought that really could have done well. I guess the question is like, can he have an efficient passing game like Drew Pyne had against like North Carolina and BYU and the USC even, right? Like, can he throw the ball that well? Like, I think that is a pretty major question about Tyler Buchner. And it's something that I guess, I mean, I think you would have the opportunity to do, because the thing about those games, it's not like Notre Dame was chucking all over the field, right?
No.
It's just that they were very efficient and Drew Pyne was very efficient. And that's when you saw him play, and it's like, okay, that's when the Notre Dame offense was at their best. And then he's going up against a defense that is kind of similar in ability to those defenses, right? Like those weren't the best defenses, North Carolina, BYU, and USC. And South Carolina, even before all the players they've lost, right? And we're going to go over that in a second, but they've lost a bunch of guys who are frontline players for them. And so that they didn't have a good defense to start with. And so now you kind of add that in. And so that it's like he should have the opportunity to at least show that he can be an efficient passer like that. So I agree with Chief Brody overall. Like I do think that I don't think he has to come in and they need to change things to accommodate, his skill set with the offense. I think they can do what they've been doing and bring in some other things, with his legs and his movement and that sort of thing. And I think he's comfortable getting outside the pocket. Whether or not he can be efficient there is another question, but I think he's comfortable with it. So I don't think we need to see anything totally different. I think they can do what they've been doing. Jamie, why don't we go into some of the I guess the players missing that colors the game, right? So Notre Dame is out. We knew they were out, Mayer, Foskey, and Cam Hart due to injury. We learned today that Jason Adamilola is going to be out or due to injury. And obviously I said due to injury before, but Mayer and Foskey are going pro. So that's what they're doing. Obviously Drew Pyne went into the portal and he's at Arizona State now. So he's not playing in the game. And I think that for the key players, that's pretty much
those are the key guys.
Yeah, those are the key guys. And then South Carolina, you said, was down 11. That was the last time I heard about it. 11 starters. Have they lost anyone else since then? Like, is there?
They are. I mean, there's other guys, but they're more like depth pieces. So, I mean, there are definitely in like the 60s for scholarship guys. Competing in this game, which is, not good, right? That's not good. It's not like abnormal if you consider like a team that maybe like had like a lot of attrition, a lot of injuries or whatever, but like to have that many guys, but then it's really what it comes down to is the key guys, right? So it's like basically like 11 guys who are starters. So, I mean, obviously 5 key guys for Notre Dame. And I would say, Foskey and Mayer would have been the 2 best players to play in this game if they were available. So, I mean, that is big. It is significant. But just imagine South Carolina, starting D tackle, opted out. Starting defensive end, transfer portal. Starting corner, opted out. Another starting corner, opted out. Another 4 of their top 5 pass catchers this season aren't playing in this game, from transfers, opting outs, whatever, right? Injuries to one of the guys. One of the guys had another discipline issue or whatever, right? So 2 of their top 3 receivers, of just wide receivers, the top guy, Juice Wells, is playing. Starting right tackle, opted out. Starting running back, transfer. Starting top 2 tight ends, both transferred, both already picked their other schools. So they're like long gone. And then the one kid is like, Bell is like a Jalen Samuels type. So he's like part running back, part whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point of no return there.
Right. Yeah. At some point you've hit a critical mass where it's too much.
And I understand that they still have good players,
Yeah.
right? Like Spencer Rattler, when he's on, can be a great quarterback. Juice Wells is a great receiver, no doubt about it. They've got some good guys. I think Jordan Birch was a former 5-star kid. He's their best pass rusher. He's still playing in this game. Their linebackers are pretty good. They still got probably their best corner is still playing in the game. But now the guy who was a true freshman safety, who had a pretty good year, but up and down, he's a true freshman. Now that guy has to play nickel, right? And now a guy who's like a fifth-year guy who hasn't played really that much in his career, he's got one career pass defense. He got an interception earlier this year, but has never touched the ball other than that in his whole career. Now he's starting at the other corner. This one defensive end wasn't even really barely in the rotation. He's playing. No career sacks for him, right? The defensive tackle that's playing is a rotation guy. He's a solid player, but you're going from a guy who was a disruptive guy in Zach Pickens, another former 5-star kid, to just a guy who is zero pressures on the air. Tell me who goes through a season with zero pressure. He's obviously like a run stuffer guy,
right?
But usually you think
it would have
all
get one
backwards
by
into a pressure or something.
By accident, you get one.
Yeah, so they're missing a lot of key guys, and it's not to say that they don't have other talent. And if Notre Dame sleepwalks into this game, yeah, of course, South Carolina can beat them. But if Notre Dame plays well, they're going to beat them, and they'll probably beat them like by multiple touchdowns. Like,
right.
I just don't know how many teams could lose just that many guys. Alabama couldn't, Georgia couldn't, like those teams. There's a drop off. I don't care. It just, no matter what your depth is, right? 11 guys that are like actually key guys. And these are all guys who, played in those Tennessee and the Clemson game. So you can talk all you want about, oh man, they had all this momentum. That's gone out the window.
Right. Like the reason you had the momentum is because of players like that.
Yeah. And so, I think they could do, the way I look at it is running back wise, they're obviously not in a good situation, right? Guys who haven't really played much, haven't really done much, right? So, and then, you lose your right tackle, you lose his tight ends. You only have really one tight end who's mostly been a blocker, right? So I think they're going to chuck it around all the place. But then you consider that they lost so many receivers, and they got a couple other guys that I think are pretty decent players, guys who've made plays this year. But like all of a sudden they got to go from like the next two guys on the list for receiver have 23 targets on the year, not 23 catches, 23 targets. So, just imagine if all of a sudden you said, well, all the guys for Notre Dame are out, but then Jaden Thomas is also out. And then Audra Kastemi's out. Oh, Blake Fisher, he's out. And then, oh yeah, by the way, Cam Hart's out. And then Tariq Bracy, because he also missed that game. And we already saw what it's like when he's not, and he's also out. And when you have all that together, then you're like, oh, this is a problem, right? Like, this is a big problem. And so, I understand Pyne is out, and he's the guy who played all year and stuff like that too. And there's the unknown with Buchner. So there's that part of it. But I don't know about you, Greg, but I just read, Marcus Freeman said he's looked magnificent in practice. I'm like, magnificent? This guy better ball out in this game. He said he was magnificent, Greg. So,
I can't.
I'm expecting him to play well now. I'm not expecting him like cancel the Sam Hartman transfer. Magnificent. I'm not any of that. But I am expecting him to play well in this game, because I just don't think he would have said that. I think he just would have said, yeah, he's looked good. He's looked good. He's catching up to speed. He hasn't. Marcus Freeman this year hasn't struck me as a guy who's prone to hyperbole with some of the stuff that when he's talking about players. I think he's always been positive no doubt about that. I think that's, part of who he is. And I think that, the players like that too. That's great. Publicly positive. But I haven't heard him say that. And maybe he just was like, search for word, but he's the man said magnificent.
He said
So,
magnificent. I mean,
yeah.
it's out there, right? He said it, and it's in the public, sphere. So I agree with you. I mean, if you're going to say that,
you better believe I'm going to be put in. If Notre Dame wins this game, I'm going to be magnificent's going to be all over the instant reaction.
It is the thing where it's like, because he said it, it kind of, there is a way it needs to look then. You can't really take it back. You can't be like, well, after the fact, you can't be like, well, it's his first game and it's been a long time. It's like, hey, you said, you did say he looked really good. So it's got to translate. So there's something to be said for that. We got to talk. So Dan Adams here. Happy holidays, y'all. Hey, my 6-year-old son Emerson has been throwing up all day. We love watching Hit and Hustle together. We really appreciate you to shout him out. Emerson, you're hitting and hustling. If you are feeling sick and you're watching this show,
you're still watching this show, man.
You're hitting and hustling,
yeah.
And that is the what we want. That is the brand of this show, is that you hit and you hustle and you fight it out and you get through it and you move on. So Emerson, feel better, bro. Hope you get to feel better for the game
feel
tomorrow.
Better soon.
Watch the game. And catch the post game, Emerson. Maybe give us an update, Dan Adams, about how Emerson's doing. So, thank you for watching as always, guys. Really appreciate that. Craig D says, "What do you think of Holtz picking South Carolina? It surprised me. Did that happen? Because he just put out a promo for Notre Dame. It would be really weird if he, he put out a promo for Notre Dame and he did.
I gotta be honest. Whatever.
South Carolina to win."
Yeah, I'd be honest, and no shots at Lou Holtz, but I mean he's getting up there.
It's not that it's not indicative. I just think it would be funny. Ironic.
It would be. He's getting up there in age. So I would take whatever pick he made with a grain of salt. I don't think he's following the teams as closely as he was. When he's still working the ESPN gig, and believe me, I think he still probably, watches here and there, but, he hasn't really been in the public eye for a while. And I think he's, cause he's getting older, right? He's getting older. So, still love Lou Holtz for all the time that he spent at ND and enjoy him for that. And, we don't need to rub it in his face if Notre Dame, beats the brakes off of South Carolina.
Right. Yeah. It's just a comment someone made. Whatever. It is. So I guess, what I put in the prediction post today for ISD is, like, I think going into the game, the single unit that was better than, any other unit is the offensive line prior to any opt-outs. Notre Dame's offensive line, prior to any opt-outs, the best unit on the field was going to be their offensive line, just as on paper. And then that unit stayed together intact, and South Carolina lost some guys. Doesn't help, right? And South Carolina was already not good against the run. Vanderbilt ran on them, right? Vanderbilt did. That's Clark Lee said. That's how we beat them. We just ran on them, right? So Notre Dame should be able to lean on that, and then they should be able to get some things off of that. And that just kind of sets up, like the running game sets up everything else, right? Chief Brody points out that the last time we saw Notre Dame play, they were supposed to dominate USC on offensive line and running game, and that didn't happen. I think it's a little bit different just because, USC is giving up a lot of yards. In the running game, yes, but it's like it wasn't like North Carolina levels. They were bad on a per play basis, but like the overall numbers for USC weren't completely atrocious. So like no one, like there weren't teams running for like 250 against them. That wasn't a regular thing. So it's a little bit different. Plus, it's the end of the year. and it's just kind of like a different. I mean, I don't really want to get into it. I just don't. I don't think USC is as indicative as what can happen in this game.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a one-time thing. Josh Lugg ended up playing really poorly, just kind of out of the blue. Wasn't a strong game for like Zeke Correll or anything like that. So, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like the line and like the tight ends didn't block great in that game, so that was part of it. But in saying that, I mean, SC totally sold out to stop the run, to the point that Drew Pyne averaged 12 yards per attempt.
He didn't have any incompletions till like the third quarter.
So I think like when you look at that, that's obviously horrible. And they did have like a horrible day on defense, and they made Drew Pyne look way better than he is really, right? So and I also think that part of not playing that great in that game on the offense line is part of the reason why like Jarrett Patterson is back in this game and didn't opt out, because he's like doesn't want to end his career on that kind of game. And I think there's something to like guys like Patterson and Lugg, and this being like their last time to play together, and the O line, like it's a very, anyone who knows O linemen, like they're very, it's a very tight group, right? And Notre Dame's offensive line has been very tight for years and years. And I mean, it's like that one with most teams, but I mean, really, it's really like a brotherhood with Notre Dame. And like guys like Alt and Fisher and Correll, and Michelin, they won't want to play bad because they don't want to let those other guys down. And that's got a lot to do with it too. So, I mean, I would be surprised if Notre Dame didn't run the ball really well. And I did mention that they're out 2 starting defensive linemen. And that's going to be something, right? And I mean, the other part of it is that now all of a sudden, because they're missing these corners, what is that going to mean for matchups and all that kind of stuff too? And then the other thing is you never had the quarterback element in the run game too. So I would be shocked if Notre Dame didn't run the ball pretty well in this game. I mean, I don't know like a number. It would be hard to say a number, but I think they're going to run for a lot of yards on it.
I mean, frankly, it would be kind of inexcusable, really. I mean, you have your whole line.
Yeah.
They're all back. There's no reason for it. You need to do it to win. It would be, I mean, it would be inexcusable not to run the ball well, right? So I guess there's that way to look at it.
Well, the other piece, sorry to interrupt, Greg, but like the other piece is that I think if Notre Dame wasn't always chasing the game, they would have ran more and would have eventually broke.
Right.
And that would have happened, but they couldn't really, because they were always behind. So they just had to do whatever. And then like, especially late, like if you, just say the next week against Utah, for instance, Utah, I mean, obviously ran on them a ton at the end of the game, but they broke them late. It really got bad late. Right. And that was something that I think probably would have happened with Notre Dame, but the game didn't flow that way.
Right. I mean, Craig D asked a good question then, right? So USC loaded the box, sold out, stopped the run, right? And Drew Pyne hurt him, right? He was able to do that. And so do you I mean, it's not even do you think, like you haven't seen, we have no evidence to,
we don't know,
suggest it, right? So it's like I can't even ask you that in a fair way, right? Because you're just spitballing. So will Tyler Buchner be able to hurt them if they load the box? I think that's the biggest question, right? In the game, in my opinion, is will Tyler Buchner show like why he beat Drew Pyne out to be the quarterback?
Yeah.
Right. We saw how Drew Pyne played, and at times it was poor, and at times it was really good. And in the games that they won, it was, I mean, part of the reason why they did. I mean, a huge part of the reason why they won the game, right? So I think Notre Dame put up a ton of yards and a good amount of points against USC. It was just like they had too many empty trips, basically. So that's my biggest question in the game is what can Tyler Buchner do if he's forced, not forced, but like, because they could just run into bad numbers if they want. But it's like if the situation presents itself and you have, it's like, hey, you got to hit Deion Colsey in the 15-yard dig on this play, and that's what makes it successful. Like, can you do it? Right?
You're going to have some 3rd and longs in the game. It just happens, right?
Yeah.
You know,
in
someone
all sports,
missed
every
assignment.
game.
Like if you all of a sudden you get a tackle for loss, you get behind the sticks. Like there's going to be times, and I mean that to me is the biggest question with Tyler Buchner. Period. Is it's 3rd and 8. Can he make a play to move the sticks? Right? Is he going to
with a man in his face?
Yes. Will he make the right read? Can he escape the pocket and run too? Like, I mean, there's plenty of times where, I mean, Ian Book, he just made a play with his legs, right? So can he do that? So I don't know. I mean, if he's playing like he's magnificent, then I think maybe he could. But I mean, who knows? I don't know. So that's going to be the most interesting thing. And it's like, you know, when I was talking about Hartman and what he kind of, and really, because like, this is why I feel good about, not to just pivot into Hartman, but like, it's why I feel good about Sam Hartman as a quarterback, period, whether he's at Notre Dame or not. Like, the guy's money on 3rd down. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country on 3rd down. And that's the money down. That's when it matters, right? When it's like an obvious passing situation, can you make a play to move the sticks? And, you know, that's what, you know, a guy like Hartman could do. That's where Drew Pyne, you know, lacked really. You know, he had a couple really nice games with it and mostly bad games, right? And that was kind of like his downfall, especially if you look at it, all the games where he was like hovering around 50% completion percentages. I mean, you add in like 2 or 3 of those completions on 3rd down where he just missed guys. It changes things, right? It changes things. So that to me is, I mean, and if Buchner wants to be the quarterback next year, no matter who's he's going to compete with, Hartman or Angeli or whoever, you got to be able to make plays on 3rd down, because that's the name of the game.
Yeah. And Rajon makes a good point that I think we've brought up on previous shows about this, is every position other than tight end, right? And that's except tight end. That's a big caveat, right? Because that's consensus.
He is that guy's pretty good.
All other positions on offense are better than the last time Buchner played, and that's true, right? Estime was completely green, right? Diggs wasn't completely green, but he had been hurt, and he didn't have the role that he has now. Jaden Thomas, Deion Colsey. Deion Colsey was not even taking practice reps when Tyler Buchner started against Ohio State and Marshall. So Tobias was not involved when he was in the game. I think Braden Lenzy was not playing as well. I mean, he ended the year playing much better. And so, there's that whole aspect of all the green guys that they had to work into the offense are now they're kind of seasoned and they're weathered and they've been through it, right? And in a way that, in a way that you would hope that Buchner would have, right? And he didn't get to go through that. It's unfortunate, but at least he comes into a situation where all those guys are playing better. Chief Brody points out the only one who has regressed is Styles. I think it's fair to say that Styles did not have a great year. And he probably wants, kind of to make up for that, right? He has a lot to prove.
He's probably looking forward to his guy, Tyler Buchner, too. Like, Buchner is the guy that he came in with. It's the guy he worked out with camp when they both got offers and stuff like that. So he's probably looking for a new fresh start.
Yeah, maybe it helps him. Maybe that's part of what can get him going. So, but it is a good point. Like, the offensive line is obviously vastly improved since the last time he played, and he's probably excited to play behind that. At least he should have a clean pocket, right? And that's important for any quarterback. So I guess beyond the Buchner kind of aspect of this game, which I think is the most intriguing aspect of it, just overall, What else are you looking for, right? Are you looking for something from, something more from Tommy Reese, or, some kind of wrinkle that he can throw in? Are you looking for something from Al Golden? Jalen Sneed, for example, right? JD Bertrand's talking about, he reminds me of JOK, right? Which is obviously great to hear. But to me, it sounds like Brandon Joseph isn't going to play, right?
Yeah.
Anytime Marcus Freeman says questionable, that's
I think almost every time the guy hasn't played.
hasn't played. So, and if he's not practicing and he hasn't been, that's not a good sign. So, are you looking for something from Xavier Watts or, Jaden Mickey or anyone? Just like, is there any aspect? I guess you can go offense and defense. Like, is there any aspect of the game that you're really looking for, it's kind of evidence or something you want to see in this game?
I think what I want to see is I think you want to see progress from the guys who have played already and played like a big role. But I think you're looking at the guys that those key guys that we mentioned that are going to be out, and how they replace them. So what are you going to do either schematically or with that personnel to replace them? So what I'm interested to see is, so Justin Ademilola is going to be like the starting Viper. So what are they going to, and now Jason Ademilola is going to be out too. What does Notre Dame look like on third down? Like those are two guys that are like mainstays on third down for multiple years. So now is it going to be Mills and Cross inside? Is it going to be Botello and Justin Ademilola outside? Are you going to run more of that 3-man line? Maybe that's a spot for, like, you give a guy like Jalen Sneed and you just say, hey, maybe he doesn't understand the defense, but go get him, young pup. Like, go rush the passer here, right? Like, so what are they going to do in those kind of situations, right? Where they're doing that, like, and maybe you make it a little bit easier where all of a sudden it's like Jalen Sneed gets in and, like, he only needs to really, here's your 10 calls you need to know. And this is it. And that's what you need to know for this game. You're playing that. And then you could do that in like a sub package kind of situation. Right. So that's kind of what I'm interested to kind of see from like that personnel standpoint. And then also too, like, I mean, to me, Jaden Mickey, I mean, he's the guy that I want to see the most in this game on defense, really, because I mean, obviously he really struggled in that USC game.
Yeah.
It obviously sucks for him going back home to California and having a game like that. And all the kind of things that happen with Bracey being out too. And he was just relied on. Right. So how are they going to replace Hart in this game? And my guess is that Clarence Lewis is still going to play quite a bit too. But how much is Mickey going to play? Bracey's he going to be like the main starter when they go? I imagine he's not going to leave the field very much, Tariq Bracey, if he's completely healthy, right? But of course you're going to play him in the nickel when he's there. So who's the outside guy? Is it going to be Lewis? Are you going to give Mickey another shot there? What are they going to do there? And then I think X Watts, I already kind of expected that he was going to play a ton in this game, and probably start. So, where are they at kind of with him? And I want to see him. He had a great finish to the season, and you want to see him like have a great bowl game and then go into the off season with high expectations for him. And then offensively, I think it all comes down to really like with Reese, what are you going to do with Buchner different? And how's that going to look different and how's it going to look different without Mayer? Because he was obviously such a focal point. Right. And obviously, he should have been the focal point. The guy's the best tight end in college football. But without him, what does that mean for usage with the backs in terms of them throwing them the football? What does it mean for the usage with the tight ends and how much you're going to use the multiple tight ends? And what does it mean for the receivers in terms of, like, if it's 3rd and 8 and normally that ball's going to Mayer and you're trying to scheme something up to get Mayer in a situation, you're running, a bunch set where he's going to run an option route off of it and you feel like you got a good matchup there. Well, who's going to be that guy they're going to throw to now? Because really, like, other than like Deion Colsey, I mean, it's obviously Deion Colsey made some big plays at the end of the year, but really you're kind of going off of like basically 4 third down catches from Dion Colsey
Right.
and being like, oh yeah, he can be the guy. It's like, well, can he be the guy? Because what if they got to throw him 4 third downs in this game? Is Jaden Thomas going to be that? Are they going to try to do more things with Styles? Can they trust Styles? Right? Can they trust one of those tight ends? Right? And obviously, it's only going to be Holden Stays or Mitchell Evans really for this game. But like, what are you going to do with that? Is Diggs or Tyree gonna be featured more in there? So I don't know. I'm really kind of intrigued because I think this is on offense, even though they're missing more guys on defense and than they are on offense. But I think you kind of get I think we could get like a bigger glimpse into what we're going to kind of see with the offense next year than even more so with the defense.
I think with Buchner, so there was so much, and we've kind of talked about it too. Like there's so much motion and there's so much kind of activity going on in the Notre Dame offense, and you can kind of see when they run a play, all of the variations that they could run, but you feel like they're not turned on because of Pyne, and it's like, okay, well, he's obviously not keeping this, right? And they don't want him to kind of make the decision to pull and throw and that sort of thing. Can they turn those on with Buchner in there? Because it's befitting of his skill set a lot more. And I think that's where, like, something that I'm kind of curious to see is whether some of that RPO stuff and whether some of like the motions, like there are so many times, like going back and, watching games back, just random games, right? Like the BYU game and the Syracuse game and all those games. Like I watch them back and there's little things that I notice, like, oh man, like look what they have if they run this play again, right? Like so many times when they motioned out Tyree, they would get in that 21 set and Tyree would kind of be offset and then they'd send him across the formation. And it would be just like a straight run, right? Like it would just be like inside zone or something,
Yeah,
or dual or something like that. And it's like, oh man, like if they could have just, if he pulls this and throws it out there, like they've really got numbers. They've got something out there, right? Can that stuff get turned on in this game? And I think that's how that's how they can, mitigate the loss of Mayer. It's like, don't get in third down all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I think they played for third and short a lot last year. Well, a lot of second and long runs and that sort of thing. They played to get into situations where it's like, okay, we can get Mayer into a favorable matchup.
Yeah.
We're
3rd and 5 and you felt like, and I think even not just with, so even think about the year before when you're looking at like with Cone, and Cone had to come up to the line and he had Mayer, he had Avery Davis, he had, we got a 1-on-1 on the boundary. Well, we think Kevin Austin can win here, especially at the end of the year, right?
Right.
And then, by the way, we can also motion out Kyron Williams here, and he can win too. And now that it was very different this year, right? But they always felt they could rely on Mayer. Happy New Year, Pops. And I just, it's going to be completely interesting because there's really so much unknown about it, right? It's like, there was someone who asked a question for Power Hour. It's like, if Notre Dame gets Sam Hartman, what does it mean for like all of a sudden they become a national title contender? And the answer is probably not, unless is someone gonna emerge are they gonna have like 2 receivers emerge into like stud, like number 1 wide receiver types,
right?
Because not only do they need that at receiver, but they're probably not going to get another Mayer from Mitchell Evans or even Eli Raridan or whoever there is there right away. Like that's probably not going to happen right away. So you need that. And maybe you need one of the backs to do that too. Maybe like, it's probably putting too much on a guy coming back from Achilles, but like a JD Price to be something like that too. So, there's just a lot of questions with the offense and kind of like who they're going to have to count on and who can be an elite guy. And I think they have a lot of really good players on the offense. It's just like, is this going to be the game where you see, and I think I pointed back to it like a million times. People are probably sick of it, but like that Miles Boykin Citrus Bowl game, right? Like, is someone going to emerge and be like, wow, confidence through the roof. All of a sudden you're like, oh, this guy's going to be a guy, this guy's going to be a guy. And maybe 2. And I don't know. I just have a feeling it's going to be Jaden Thomas. That's just my feeling, is that I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of advocated for when they go trips or when they go like, in the 2x2, whatever, with the 4 wide, and or there, I guess it would be, it's 11 personnel because of Mayer, but it would be 10 personnel in this situation. But putting Jaden Thomas in that Mayer spot, because I feel like he's the body type and he's the kind of the most similar to those guys, and so if that is the case, then I totally agree. Like Jaden Thomas could be that guy. He's had a really good year, no drops this year, so knock on wood. But it's like, can they be a more explosive team? That's another thing. Notre Dame was not very explosive this year. Especially in the running game, right? And so I think, does the addition of Buchner, can they create more explosive, easier touchdowns, right? Easier drives where it's like, okay, you hit a big one, you go 5 for 75 instead of like 13 for 75, right? Like it just makes it a lot more easier to get points in bunches and that sort of thing. So there's so much, and so just the kind of my side on the defense too is like, is Botelho, like, what's this Botelho thing? Like I would like Botelho to be the Miles Boykin of the defense.
I think everyone wants that because they're looking for what's going to happen at Viper next year.
Right. Yeah. And I just think, like, if that is a real thing, like if you come out of this game where you feel like, hey, like he was not just in the passing game, but against the run as well, like that's a real thing that Notre Dame can count on next year.
Yeah.
Like if we come out of that game feeling like, okay, Jordan Botelho, like that guy kind of stock is up, but not like meteoric, it's just kind of like trending up. If you come out of this game and you think, man, Jordan Botelho, he was a problem, that was a real good performance from him. I think that would be kind of like the one thing where I'm kind of looking for, I guess, hoping for, I don't know. It's just something that I think is possible. Right.
Yeah.
And then I think Jalen Sneed, like, can he play well enough to where it's like, okay, keeping on this trajectory, there's a real chance that he's the starting rover next year. And that kind of changes. It kind of turns over like the athleticism of the defense and kind of the upside of that defense and that sort of thing. Because I feel like, again, I feel like the offense and the defense were similar in that there wasn't a lot of explosiveness from either side, right? They didn't have that kind of pop. And that's what you need. And I think that, so, Buchner and, someone like Jaden Thomas or Tobias Merriweather, and then the addition of Jadarian Price, like that could bring pop to Notre Dame's offense next year.
Yeah.
And then with Botelho and Sneed, I feel like those are the pop players that could really kind of springboard the team. Like, talk about like, okay, big momentum coming out of the bowl game. Like, I feel like that would be where I would, we could confidently say and like credibly say like, hey, this is a really good development.
Yeah.
And then you bring in someone like Sam Hartman, and then you're really cooking with gas as far as momentum goes.
And I think that's too, you mentioned the explosiveness. I think that's why X Watts just stands out so much because he pops. Like whenever you see him, he pops. Like, I mean, he literally is like popping dudes when he's heading through them. But like, I mean, he plays fast. He plays fast, right? He plays faster than any safety they have, right? And I think, last year when you saw he played fast, but maybe he didn't play fast. He wasn't doing the right things all the time.
Right.
And you saw him kind of, look like a guy who was like pretty new to the position, really. And this year, I think you're seeing a lot less of that. And you're seeing like him kind of, grow into that position. And they just, they lack that explosive athleticism at that position. So they really, really need it. And I'll just mention with Botelho too, like, so 17 snaps the first 7 games of the year on defense. So like barely played, 4.5 tackles for loss last 5 games. So, it wouldn't be crazy if all of a sudden, he had a couple sacks in this game and whatever, and took off. But it's just with him, it's just always been about consistency and whether or not you can count on him. And, I think Notre Dame fans all hope that he's the guy there, because you don't want to have to go into a situation where, Josh Burnham redshirted this year. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, Josh Burnham, I hope you could start next year. Like, no, you don't want to be in that position.
Right. You had just said, oh man, I lost my train of thought.
X Watts.
Thank you. That's where I was going. There were so many times where I'm watching the game and I post a lot of clips about him because, again, he's the one who's popping, right? Like he's the one who kind of stands out to me. And I kind of got to the point where it's like I gotta stop because it looks like I'm like standing for this kid like really hard, But the fact is, it's like he keeps doing things that I'm like, this is really good. Like it looks like I'm like, oh, and I don't want to be like I'm pushing it some kind of agenda or anything. But look, if you pop, you pop, and he's continued to do the right things. And he was at the beginning of the year, he was kind of doing little things where you could kind of tell like, hey, he's picking this up, and then he started to do some real stuff, right? And the next level is the interceptions, right? And if that comes, you're looking at a real good player. You're looking at like a really good option on defense. So, Jamie, talk about predictions. I saw what you said on the on our board, but what did your prediction come out as?
I predicted 31-17 Notre Dame. I mean, I never know what to put for the score on these. Like, it's impossible. It's really
you kind
impossible.
of picture in your mind like how it's going to go.
I always think I picture how much I think, what the margin is going to be. I mean, like I feel like a couple scores or like three scores really. Like I feel like Notre Dame. I think with all of that South Carolina's lost and the matchup. Because if it was a bad matchup still, I'd be like, then I'd worry a lot more. And it's not to say that, Rattler can't have a great game because he could have a great game, or Juice Wells couldn't produce a bunch of, big plays too. But I mean, so the right tackle they're replacing is, played in a couple games this year and just gave up a ton of pressures. So I mean, if Isaiah Foskey was there, I'd be like, oh my God, this is like, he's going to destroy him. But then even then I'm like, I think like, I probably like Jordan Botello, or I like Justin Adol, or I like Riley Mills or Nana or whatever versus this guy. Right. Because I think Notre Dame's backup defensive ends are probably better than their backup right tackle. And then they're bad versus the run. And I just have to believe that Notre Dame is going to be especially motivated to run the ball in this game, and it's going to run for a lot. And that's basically the main thing, is that I think they're going to be able to run it on them. And then I think there's just too many weapons missing. So especially when you play a team too, and there's really only one guy that you really got to worry about, like, you can take that away. You can take that away, and you can really, like, you can bracket them all the time. You can do all these different things to kind of mess with it. It makes it a lot harder. I mean, that's not to say they're not going to do all these different things. Maybe they're going to move him around more than they normally would and all this. But, I mean, they did lose their offensive coordinator too, so that's part of it. But I don't know. I just can't see any team losing that many guys and that many key guys, and then still coming out and like winning the game. So I guess it's possible. It's close. I just don't see Notre Dame losing.
Yeah. So I picked 30-23 Notre Dame, but I think it'll be like 30-16, and then they'll get a late score or something, and then maybe they'll even have to try like an onside kick, and Notre Dame will recover it, and it'll be one of those like games where fans are kind of like, we felt like it seems like Notre Dame was clearly better, and clearly like it should be more than like 30 to like a 7-point game, like North Carolina, for example, like that game's 45-32.
Yeah,
it's like a 13-point win, but it felt like a 28-point win.
I mean, and bowl games are weird,
right?
They're weird.
Right. So I could see
weird stuff happens all the time. The mistakes, special teams.
Yeah, some goofy thing, or like Notre Dame like looks good, and then they kind of bog down, and it's like, oh man, like they haven't really done anything.
They're controlling this game, but it's like they're up 14, but the last couple of drives were 3 and outs, or something like that, right?
Yeah. So I think that's what Notre Dame's going to be in for in this game. So I mean, they should win, right? I mean, I don't know. If Notre Dame happened to lose, like what would your? I mean, I guess we're gonna do a post game, so I guess we can talk about it then. But like, I don't know. I'm more intrigued by how it's gonna look than what the outcome is. I guess is a better way to put it. But I think, I mean, given like everything that they've lost, like Notre Dame should really win this game, especially because of the offensive line being back and intact, and Buchner can run the ball. At the very least, he should be able to run the ball. All the running backs are available to play and that sort of thing. So I think that's how it should go. I think we should leave it there, Jamie. We've got a lot. We've got the post game tomorrow. So the game tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. We are going to do the post game show, and that's going to be right after the kick, or the end, as always. So we can talk about it then. We can go into how the game went, what we saw, what excited us, maybe what didn't excite us, and that sort of thing. Rayshon says, "Thank you. We were magnificent." So thank you. That's a very good comment. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If this is your first time, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Hopefully Notre Dame will be on for a good one tomorrow. We'll be live right after the game. So I don't know if the game ends at 4 Pacific. We're looking at 7 Eastern time, something like that, 4 Pacific time. So absolutely, Dan. Thanks again. Hopefully, Emerson, get better, bro.
Yeah,
Get
feel
better,
better,
little
Emerson.
man. Get better, little man. Hope you enjoy the game tomorrow, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in. Remember, post game show, me and Jamie, we're gonna talk all about it. So thanks. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.